The age of man is over. The age of that orc, it has come. And as tradition, I think we probably should start off at the bottom. Holy shit, man. Is that actually true?
Victory is assured.
Yes. Yes, gentlemen. Whatever happens this week, we must all rejoice. Do you know why it's a time of celebration? Because you know what? On the biggest weekend of play since 10th edition launched, Tau came bottom. Yeah, baby! So, it was a big weekend. So, normally we say like an average weekend is 600 to 700 players. This weekend, we had almost 1,200 players. That is huge. That is 300 players more than what I consider a busy week. 300 to 400 players more than what I consider a busy weekend. There were over 4,000 games. There were over 8,300 games of 40k played across 19 events. We had 4,038 victories, meaning that there was a 48% win rate overall, and that 148 players went undefeated. So 148 players went 4-1 at the worst, which is pretty good. So it's a very, very busy weekend, and what's very significant and very important about this level of players is it gives us a real look into the competitive data, into the meta. Okie croaky, shall we have a look at this data? Let's have a look at some Tau stuff. Sorry, just saying those words did it make me involuntarily sort of spasm and vomit and just have an allergic reaction. Yeah, there we are. So, good news is that Tau are actually in bottom place right now. Praise be that the Tau, the foul commie bastard, blue, the scum are on the bottom table. That's good. That's where that's being generous to them. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed on this table if I had my way. So there were 56 Tau players this weekend, which is a pretty respectable number. Lots of damn dirty Xenos lovers. They played 100. They won 124 games out of 305 games that they played, with 6 players, which is over 10% of their players, actually managing to go 4-1. But none of the Tau players managed to bring home the gold. So even though they had a lot of people that did very, very well, they didn't have anyone that went undefeated and won a tournament. Overall, though, their win rate was only 41%. Oh dear. 41%. I mean, it's not got a 3 in front of it, so it's not that bad, but 41% isn't great. 41% isn't great when your codex has only just come out and you've also had to wait like 2 months to even be allowed to use it at tournaments. It's not an idea. You had to wait all this time to take it to tournaments, and you finally did get to use it, and it didn't do very well. Now, taking a look at the different attachments here, we can see that there's one absolute Giga Chad who took the Crute Hunting pack and managed to go 4-1 with that attachment and get 80% win rate. So that guy's shoulders are pretty heavy right now because he's carrying literally the whole goddamn faction on his shoulders. Now it's funny because it seems like the Crute are actually blue balling the rest of the Tau because everything else didn't do great. And now this is potentially an anomalous result because only one player these don't seem super anomalous to me. So firstly, we had the Kion, however you want to say it, I don't fucking know. The Kion, which had 17 players, which is a pretty large sample size, which only won 41 out of 94 games. No player went better than 4-1, and obviously a lot of players went worse than that. Leading to only a 44% rate. So 4 players went 4-1. The remaining 14 went 3-2 or worse. Okay, leading to a 44% win rate. Bear in mind that is basically the index detachment. You would think that was the one that was most practiced. You'd think that would be the one that had the most like going for it. And in a funny sort of way, it has done, because it has come out as the highest rated one. And so Kion, the Patient Hunter, has actually ended up beating Monka for the first 3 turns of the game. I'm going to slap you around, I'm going to slap you around, but I'm going to try and basically beat this in the first 3 turns, and then that's it. GG for you. I'm going to cripple you so hard in the game that you're not going to be able to come back for it. And obviously, you can see that the little bastards, the Tau community, really wanted to embrace that philosophy. 26 players. Okay, this was this style of detachment was the most popular one. This detachment, which embraces the philosophy of, I'm going to win this game in the first 2 turns. I'm going to hit you so fucking hard in the first 2 or 3 turns that you're not going to get to play the rest of the game. Like that's sort of the philosophy behind the Monk-Cat. It's a killing blow, and it's like the least fun. It's like when people say, "Oh, the game was over by by the end of turn 2, it was really boring and really shit." So one-sided. That's what this attachment kind of embodies. This mindset is what it embodies. And it was the most popular one. I know, I'm going harsh. I'm speaking definitely from perspective. I don't know what Mark can do. I think it's like everyone gets assault or something. I don't fucking know. But the point is that they embraced it. And they got the shit pushed in. 56 wins out of 140 games, leading to barely a 40% win rate. And it had even though it had more players than Kion, it had less people going 4-1. So basically, all the Tau players rubbed their hands together, went, I'm going to fucking ruin someone's game, went in, did fuck all, got battered. Yay! But it gets worse. We then had the Retaliation Cadre. And I have to be honest, I have no idea what the Retaliation Cadre does. If someone knows what the rules of this thing is, please let me know. But the Retaliation Cadre had 12 players, which is still a lot more than Crew Hunting Pack. And it only had a 35% win rate. And no one, not a single bastard from these 12 players managed to go 4-1. Oh, it's the Battlesuit one. Ooh. Oh man. By the way, I fully expect all of the Tau people to give me shit when the guard credit comes out and GWN inevitably fucks it, right? But the fact that the one that focuses on Crisis Battlesuits was absolute dog shit gives me nothing but joy. So many years, Tau Crisis Suits have made this game fucking miserable. From having drones that could you had to kill 40 drones before you could get to the Crisis Suits in 8th edition, to 9th edition, where they could literally just run around just deleting everything. Just the most diabolical, horrendous shit. And now the Crisis Suits are sitting there. I mean, all the way back into 6th edition. All the way back in, who remember? Raise your hand if you remember Farsight Bomb from fucking 6th, 7th edition, man. Fuck, bro. Fuck, man. Yeah, Narrow was there. But it's 4 editions ago when the courage of GW failed. Yeah. They'll probably improvise, adapt, and overcome. And all it takes, guys, is for one tile player to find something utterly broken. And then they'll all jump on it. So right now, we can revel in it, but I guarantee you they'll find some bullshit. All we can pray and hope is that they find some bullshit in the Recruit Hunting Pack, because I don't give a shit if I get killed by chickens. Chickens are cool, but I don't want to get diddled by crisis suits for the literally 5th edition in a row. So after we've all been like laughing and teabagging the Tau, let's now look at the Emperor's second finest, the Space Marines. Poor Space Marines. Every week I keep saying, Space Marines, they probably don't belong down here, and yet every week they still end up down here. I think the issue with Space Marines, frankly, is that more specialized chapters like the Blood Angels and the Black Templars and the Dark Angels and stuff, which do what Space Marines do, then have all of their own special tools to add into the mix as well. So if you're a Space Marine with Ironstorm Spearhead, all you get is Ironstorm Spearhead. Whereas if you're a Black Templar in Ironstorm Spearhead, you get Black Templar stuff as your army rules. You also get the detachment rules as well. So that's the problem. So basically, the issue you're always gonna have is it's a little bit like the cream of the crop is been taken off, and the people that want to win with Marines will just say these Marines that are painted like Ultramarines are going to be Black Templars today, and then these Marines that are painted like Ultramarines are going to be Blood Angels today, because there's nothing that really stops you from doing that in the current edition. So that's the issue that Marines are facing. But going through the various attachments, there are definitely a few which are bringing the side down. And it's not all bad. So firstly, let's look at the good stuff. 63 players. It's a very, very strong community. 63 players is a strong community. Really, really good showing. Really healthy numbers. Even with the cream of the crop and potentially being siphoned off, there's nothing wrong with the Space Marine community whatsoever. They managed to win 158 games out of 375 games played. And look, Marines still got some chops. They were able to go have 5 of their players, which is it's about like 8 off the top of my head. I'm eyeballing this. It's about 7 or 8% of players which were able to go undefeated or only drop 1 game. They didn't win any tournaments, so I'm suspecting that these are 4-1s, not 5-0s. 42% win rate overall, but what we need to do with this is sort of dig a little bit deeper. And as you can see, Firestorm Assault Force has really been putting some work in for the Marines. I know a lot of people that have been switching away from Ironstorm over to Firestorm, just because they say it's just much more fun to play, whilst you still have a lot of like sort of action capabilities. So Firestorm seems to be on the rise. It's on fire. Seems to be doing better at the moment. And you've got 11 players running it, with 2 of those players managing to go 4-1 with overall a 48% win rate. Gladiator Task Force continuing to be the good old reliable, just solid as a rock detachment. Not too good, not too bad. Continues to be just a sound pick for Marines. So great to see Gladiator Task Force. 44% isn't great, but it's very popular detachment. It still had 2 players that were, that's 10% of the people that took it, able to go 4-1. And 44%, look, some factions, some detachments would absolutely kill for that, so it's not so bad. Ironstorm, like I said, the problem with Ironstorm is, for sure, is that there are other factions of Marines that do Ironstorm better. If you're going to take Ironstorm, you might as well take Dark Angel Ironstorm or take Black Templar Ironstorm, really. So this is people that don't want to just say that their Ultramarines are Black Templars right now, but they still want to take the best. They're the best that they can with Marines. So yeah, it's kind of like the stick in. It's a bit like the stick in the muds, a little bit like that. But hey, look, they still managed to get a 42% win rate. It's not great at all. But it's something, and Ironstorm's still a very popular choice. I actually got the privilege of playing against Ironstorm, proper fucking Ironstorm, this weekend. The guy had like 12 vehicles. It was a proper tank company, and it was really difficult to deal with. It just had a lot of firepower, but he was running it in Black Templars, and those 10-point multi-melters, holy, they make a difference. Vanguard Spearhead continuing. So I had a little bit. So before we get to Vanguard, we must acknowledge that Stormland Sky hasn't been here for like 3-4 weeks in a row now. I think it's safe to say that Stormland Sky has moved over to Space Wolves at this point. But Anvil Siege Force Guy has now found 2 friends. So good for them. That they are getting absolutely bummed. They are getting absolutely destroyed. They have what looks like to be the worst win rate in the entire game. But fuck it. There's 3 of them now, and they're giving it a go. They're giving it a fucking go. Yeah, Anvil Siege Force. Yeah, pretty bad. Now, big respect to them, though. Big respect to them, because that is 3 genuine Imperial Fist players and Crimson Fist players just giving it a go. And sometimes you just gotta tip your head. You gotta give a nod of respect. So Chaos Knights seem to be in a really fucking weird spot at the moment, where people keep telling me that they're really, really good. And people keep telling me that all you do is spam War Dogs. And clearly, for like 4 people, this plan is working. But overall, we keep seeing like Chaos Knights down here. And they've got a popular following. They've got like 36 players, which is pretty respectable. But they've only got a 42% win rate. I really feel like Chaos Knights, they just have some games where they can't do it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's those games where like, oh, you go against like Tyranids who've got no anti-tank and you just win. And you go against like Orc Green Tide who've got no anti-tank and you just win. But the moment anyone's got any form of anti-tank, Chaos Knights just fall over and crumble because they're not that hard to kill. You know, I have killed baby knights. I have killed war dogs with like small arms fire. Because at the end of the day, it's like what? It's like a 3-up save. It's not that hard to grind down. Yeah. So it still seems like War Dog spam is the way to go. And it still seems to have some efficacy. But we keep seeing Chaos Knights just a bit low down. Yeah, I think they're probably treading water a little bit until their codex comes out. And they're probably hoping that helps them out a little bit. Next, let's take a look at Eldar. Wow. Now, I think Eldar being down here, not only being in the bottom part of the leaderboard, but being in the bottom 5 is super telling. We have there's 3 things here. 3 things here that are telling me Eldar are no longer the boogeyman. They're no longer the meta faction. Okay. And I do expect to jump around a little bit. The first thing that's telling me this is this is not the first week we've seen Eldar lower down. This is the lowest I think we've seen them in a little while, but it's not the first week that we've seen them slowly tumbling down the leaderboard. Second thing is the number of players. There were more Chaos Space Marine players. There were more Space Marine players. There were more Tau players. You know, there were a lot of factions with more players than Eldar. And for a faction that was only a few months ago the most popular faction with numbers that we've not seen, not even Necron's kind of rivaled them a bit, I guess, but we've rarely seen. We're now seeing a faction which is just not getting the player numbers in. And bear in mind, guys, this was a busy week. This was a week where there were 15 AdMech players. Double digits. It's literally never been done. But there were double digits of AdMech players. And so this is a week where having lower numbers is a really telling sign that people, that your faction isn't in ascendancy anymore. It's not the shining star that it once was, and it might even be really on the way out. I think if I was to put all this together, look, we've got 46 Eldar players. They still had 110 raw victories, which is nothing to turn your nose up at. They still had 3 people that were able to go 4-1. No one won an event. Overall, the faction 43% win rate. What this is telling me is very simple. All of the meta chasers have now jumped from Eldar. What we are left over with is the diehard community, the Eldar players. And Eldar have always been a relatively popular faction. So because they've been quite good for many editions. There's a lot of people that just got into Warhammer with Eldar and stick with Eldar. So what we're seeing is the Eldar players with the best at that faction, the best faction specialists essentially. So we've got good numbers with a few people in the faction really able to make them sing, but the majority of the meta chasers, the majority of the top like S tier players who go around winning GTs with them, they've somewhat moved on to different pastures now. Eldar bottom 5 is pretty bad for them. 43%, not great for them. Is it good for the rest of the meta? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people think that they could sink a bit lower. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't mind seeing them be the bottom faction. Eldar, definitely get the fair amount of hate. And having Eldar and Tau both join bottom would definitely bring a lot of Guard players joy to their hearts. The only thing I would say is it's a bit of a shame. All of the Eldar players in my local meta have dried up. Has GW gone too far? I know a lot of people will say no, but they are definitely in a struggling spot right now. And then the Guardsman blob that they do hack to death comes back, and the remaining infantry just blow them off the table. Like one Guardsman blob kills those 5 Dragon Scorpions. So the problem is that Eldar now are very expensive and they're very elite, and that is causing them to struggle as we are and I've been saying this for a little while now, we're heading into a quantity meta. So it's a little bit of a horde meta with things like Green Tide, but it's not just a horde meta, it's a quantity meta. For example, I played against Ironstorm Spearhead this weekend as well, and this dude had like 12 tanks. Like, you can get Predators for 130 points. You can get Rhinos for 75 points. It's very easy to take 6 units. This is with fucking Marines who are meant to be an elite army. 6 units of something in Rhinos and back that up with up to 6 main tanks as well. Be they Predators or Gladiators or whatever the fuck it may be. And so you can go into that fight as Eldar and be like, okay, but I am literally I'm on 3-1 odds here. Maybe at a push, I'm on 2-1 odds, which means I have to be able to get that 2-1 kill ratio. And as Eldar, you're quite fragile. And to get that big hit, to get those big hits, you have to come out hard. So I think Eldar essentially are quite expensive. They're not, from what I've seen from what the community is doing, they're not pivoting to a quantity meta themselves. And as a result, they are definitely being out-attrited. I've seen it with Marines do it to them, and I've seen it with Guard do it to them, and it's only going to get worse with things like Orcs coming onto the scene now, for sure. All right. Now, next up, we've got Deathwatch. This is just sad. There really is nothing to say about Deathwatch. There were 3 Deathwatch players. I mean, like, really phenomenally, it is a dead faction. Admech are less of a dead faction than Deathwatch. Admech seem to be healing. Deathwatch have just got literally no one playing them. And this isn't like 3 people playing Black Spear Task Force. No, this is 3 Deathwatch players registered out of 19 events, 1,200 players. One guy used Black Spear Task Force and actually managed to get a fucking 60% win rate. The absolute Giga Chad. Went 3-2. One guy took Vanguard Spearhead, managed to go 3-6. 3 out of 6. Must be like a major, and he got a 50% win rate. And then one guy took Ironstorm, and he heard like, oh yeah, take like the Black Space Marines, and he thought, oh, Deathwatch. I didn't realize people meant Black Templars, and he only had a 20% win rate. Fuck, man. I've seen plenty of people run Deathwatch armies at tournaments. plenty when they were just passably good, you know. And I've wandered into so many friendly local gaming stores and seen people playing Deathwatch, and it's just like 10th edition has completely dried up and killed the faction. Deathwatch are one of my second favourite Marine chapter after Black Templars. But moving away from a dead faction to a dying faction, we have the Adeptus Custodes. Oh, ML Davy has summed this up. Rest in piss custards. Yeah, man. Yeah. Light the towel. Could have happened to a nicer bunch of people. So, Custodes, before their codex, were considered, had a S tier build that genuinely could win like majors and super majors and stuff like that. Since the codex has come out, Custodes have just tumbled away. 40 again. Considering that we had 1,200 players, only having 46 Custodes when they are traditionally one of, if not the most popular competitive factions, that is hugely damning. We have had weeks where there have been as many Custodes players as Necron players, and that was Necrons at their peak. That's how popular Custodes are as a faction. Only having 46, more than anything else, that is the indicator that the Golden Boys, they're going back to 30k. That's the indicator, man, right there. There were more Chaos Space Marine players, and Chaos doesn't have their codex yet. Fucking more Chaos Space Marine players with a fucking index on their Twilight weeks, though, their index, than there were fucking Custodes players with their brand new fucking codex. Now, it's not all bad. Before we wank ourselves off and, bathe in the salty tears of the Custodes, they did have 46 players. They still won 119 games, and they still had 5 players that were able to go 4-1, but no one went 5-0 or won a tournament. Looking at the individual detachments, there's still some power here. Talons of the Emperor had 18 players and managed to have 3 out of 18 people were able to go 4-1 or 5-1. Dropped 1 game and had a 47% win rate. That individual detachment there does have a higher win rate than Chaos Space Marines, Adeptus Custodes, Leagues of Votann, Tyranids, and actually is on the same level as Dark Angels and also the Guard. So, individually, that's not a bad detachment whatsoever. Shield Host, likewise, very, very popular with 22 players, 62 raw wins. Only one person out of 22, though, was able to make them sing and go 4-1. So, but overall, you have you got 46% win rate. So only one person went 4-1. That's a lot of people going 3-2 and 2-3. A lot of people. So yeah, if you went to a tournament, some people would kill to go to a tournament with their army and guarantee that they're going to come out 2-3 on a bad day, 3-2 on a good day. People would love to be able to do that, and that's what Custodes still offer you. Are you still a competitive player that wants to go to tournament and not get whitewashed every single game, not get smashed every single game? You can turn it with Custodes, bang them in a Shield Host, bang them in Talons of the Emperor, and still comfortably walk away with a good chance that you're going to have a positive KD ratio, win-loss ratio, and at the very least, you're going to be able to earn your fried chicken afterwards. That's what you're going to be able to do. You earn your victory chicken. The one that seems to be bringing everything down, though, is the Auric Champions. Only 6 people took that, and those 6 players had a bad time. Only winning 9 out of 30 games. One person did manage to go 4-1 though, which is a little bit of an outlier, but overall they only had a 30% win rate. More time. Auric is a fucking mess for attachment. I have heard that Auric is fucking weird and all over the place. Talons of the Emperor and Shield Host seem to be the 2 go-to for the time being. Neither one of them is netting Custodes like amazing results, but fuck it, they're still netting Custodes the ability. There's some 4-1 in there, and there's a lot of 3-2 and 2-3 in there. So there we go. Custodes are not a dead faction. They're not really a dying faction. They're just not they're not really a meta chase faction anymore. This, like with the Eldar, shows the number of Custodes players. Not people who've got them as a second or third army that bring them off the shelf when they're doing good. These are the people that love the Custodes, love the lore, maybe not so much anymore, but love the lore, and are the people that like playing them. And so you've got 46 players who just like playing Custodes, and 5 of the 5 players who are kind of like faction specialists that are getting the work done. There we are. Let's look at Chaos Space Marines. Oh, baby. So Chaos Space Marines seem to be having a little bit of a resurgence. Apparently, the 49 Chaos Space Marine players, between them, played 2,204 games of Warhammer. That seems a little high. What I suspect that is meant to say is 222 games of Warhammer, and they won 101 of them, which off the top of my head looks like about 46%. So there we go. 49 players, 6 of which went 4-1. So no one went undefeated, no one won a tournament. But with the 46 that is respectable, man. That's in the Goldilocks zone where GW want factions to be, firstly. Secondly, that's more players than Custodes going with the same number of players, basically, going 4-1. That's more than the Eldar going 4-1. There's a lot of people. That's a really, really strong showing for the Chaos Space Marines. I wonder where they have pivoted to, because they've not got their codex out yet. But it's great to see the Chaos Space Marines. They're in a bit of, they're not doing great. They're in like the bottom 10, but it does seem like we're seeing good numbers, and it does seem like if over 10% of your players can get 4-1, that seems pretty positive. We'll have to see. I'm sure Chaos Space Marines, aka the saltiest community in the Warhammer universe, are going to have lots to complain about. But the Chaos, that's a very, very good position to be in before you've even got your codex, and your codex looks really, really good. Next, we've got Admech. Holy shit, guys. They are turning the franchise around like a phoenix from the flames. The Admech have grabbed said phoenix, lobotomized it. Admech with double digits of players. So we've got multiple players here that are committing to the Admech lifestyle. And they had a 46% win rate, winning 38 out of 43 games. Now, this is actually a higher win rate than that, because if we deep dive into the different attachments, we can see that actually Skitarii Hunter Cohort, aka Poor Man's Guard, which is basically spams Skitarii and like tanks and shit, has actually had the most players, and those players actually won 26 out of 50 games, giving them a 52% win rate. The Explorator Maniple did okay, but it's a very small sample size. 2 players winning 6 out of 13 games, 46% win rate. But the Rad Zone Core, which is the default attachment for Admech, I think some people just made the mistake and didn't really mean to use attachment, but sort of didn't read it properly. They didn't do very well. 4 players only winning 30% of their games. So if we bin this bit off, sure, we lose our double-digit flex, but fine, whatever. 9 players with a 52% win rate. Not bad. It's not bad at all. Admech are a faction that don't have a huge following, and maybe it just takes them a little bit of time to unlock the secrets of the machine, but they seem to be clawing it back week on week, meter by meter, inch by bloody inch, floppy disk by bloody floppy disk. They seem to be recovering the archaeotech, making it work. I am looking forward to the comeback story of the century, because they do this, they do it without getting extra rules from GW like Death Guard and Votann did. They do that purely and entirely off their own backs and off their own financial destitution. So fucking big 07 to those guys. So we have got Leagues of Votann. So these guys have actually dropped down a surprising amount Their player numbers are pretty solid. 35 players is pretty good for a relatively niche faction and a relatively new faction like Votann. Getting 90 victories out of 194 games is okay. It's a 46% win rate. But only one person went 4-1 and no one won any tournaments. Now, my suspicion here is that the symbiotic relationship that Votann had with Necrons is starting to degrade a little bit, because Necrons aren't taking like 4 Catan every single time now. We are seeing Necrons move a little bit away from relying upon just like a few really solid units and taking a bit more quantity. We're generally seeing a shift towards a quantity style meta in general. We're seeing people really just leaning into, rather than a few elite units, just lots and lots of mid-range units. And in that meta, Votann do lose their potency somewhat. So yeah, I think Votann basically they were very anti-meta for a time. The meta that they were anti has begun to ebb away, and the meta that they don't like has begun to be ushered in. Finally, in the top of the bottom 10, we have Tyranids. Not really a surprise to anyone. Tyranids are solid, sort of C-tier faction, C- tier faction. They continue to suffer from all the issues that they have suffered from, which is a lack of anti-tank in a meta which is frankly very, very favourable towards tanks. Their own monsters are somewhat durable and have some play, but generally they do their damage in combat, and this is more of a shooty meta than a combat meta. In terms of the nitty-gritty details, we had 39 players, 98 wins out of 211 games played. 6 people did go 4-1 with Tyranids. A 46% win rate and a tournament win. And I don't mean to alarm you, but someone got a tournament win with Unending Swarm. All I can say is vindication. Let's see what tournament they won. It's our first tournament win that we've looked at this week. Unending Swarm 8-0. And he beat Bully Boys for the win. Oh, shit, man. I told you guys. Look, I don't mean to toot my own horn a little bit here. Okay, I don't. I have been saying for a long time that Tyranids need to move away from Invasion Fleet. Look at this. The vast majority of players took Invasion Fleet. They only had a 39% win rate. Invasion Fleet is a trap. Invasion Fleet makes you feel like you can do damage, but reality, you can't do damage, all right? So Invasion Fleet is just not going to work, and yet people continue to try and make it work because they feel like but this is allowed to do damage. You're nids, you're not going to do damage. You're trying to out-damage people who... You're trying to out-damage people that you just can't, because you're just starting from so far behind the 8 ball. So yeah, in Unending Swarm, it's so wacky because sometimes it's got like a 30% win rate, sometimes it's got like an 8% win rate, but overall, I have to say, I think Unending Swarm is the best attachment for Nids right now. Please, you just have to go out there and just start painting bugs. So now I think Nexus has an interesting run out as well, with 65% win rate, which is interesting, and one person managing to go the distance. Vanguard Onslaught, the Sneaky Boys, about where I expect Sneaky Boys, 43% win rate. 2 people managed to bamboozle themselves to 4-1, but when they finally got too high, they got slapped down. Assimilation Swarm, basically, as far as I'm aware, Armor Contempt Swarm. No one went the distance, no one went better than 3-2. Basically, all 3 of these players won 2 games, lost 3 games, 41% win rate. Crush Stampede, that brave, beautiful bastard. One guy took Crush Stampede and he managed to win 1 game out of 5. I love him, I respect him, but dude, it is not Crush Stampede, it is Crushed Stampede. There you go. Overall, Tyranids exactly where they have been for a while, but with Unending Swarm beginning to rear its ugly head in the competitive meta. Podman46, I put the list for Nids' stream discussion. Okay, let's have a look, shall we? So we had a Neuro Tyrant, a Turvigon, a Winged Hive Tyrant, 3 Exocreens for fire support, 20 gargoyles, 10 hormagaunts, 4 times 20 termagants, biovore, lictor, neurogaunts, neurolictor, 3 venomthropes. Interesting list. Looks to me like he basically swarmed with the termagants. He had an initial rush of gargoyles and hormagaunts just to fuck with people. The gargoyles probably got rezzed every turn just to fuck with people. Biovores for doing some objectives, lictors for doing some objectives, neurolictors doing some objectives, venomthropes to try and add a little bit of -1 to hit to the whole thing. So yeah, basically, half of this shit does objectives, half of this shit just pisses you off, and the 3 exocrines actually do damage to you. Different list to what I was expecting, I have to say, but there's a few, but it's not really very unending swarmy when you think about it. It's like there's a few big broods in there, but there's only like 110 bugs, and the rest of it's big shit. It's not quite the 240 list, but it is definitely the it's definitely a list with some it's less of a meme and more of a dream. It's definitely got some more strategy than just swarm behind it, which is cool. And that's probably what you need to do with an ending swarm. Just try and like overwhelm people with numbers. I tried it. It can catch people out, but that's about it. Playing an ending swarm and then playing it like not memey is very, very powerful. Yeah. And as we saw, it won a super major. Can't really deny it. So that covers the bottom few factions. We're now getting into that covers the bottom 10. We're now getting into the middle pack, so the middle 6 factions. These guys, these are factions that are doing okay. Or, these are all factions that are in a decent spot. So Dark Angels, 33 players, okay. Like, not bad. But there's a lot of little bits here. So overall, they had 33 players. Overall, they had 90 wins of 191 games. And overall, 3 people were able to go the distance. And overall, they had a 47% win rate. But what's kind of weird is all the little bits. So if you look at the Dark Angels specific stuff, that's all tragically shite. Okay? So Dark Angels are barely using their codex. All right? Unforgiven Task Force, 20%. Inner Circle Task Force, 35%. Company of Hunters, 33%. Tragically bad win rates. Tragically low player numbers between all of them. Just no. No. So all the Dark Angel attachments are just ass. Anvil Siege Force is ass as well. And it doesn't matter what kind of Marine you are. Anvil Siege Force is ass as well. And then we get into some of the more interesting stuff. So we have Vanguard Spearhead with a 77% win rate and someone going 4-1. But there were only 2 players, so a little bit of a small sample. So some sneaky Dark Angels showing some promise. First Company Task Force going 3-2. Just one guy, so maybe an anomaly. But hey, what is he basically taking all of the Terminators? He's probably taking advantage of all the different kinds of Terminators he's getting access to via Dark Angels. It's probably because, Barcus, I know it is interesting. It's probably because Dark Angels have got Terminators, Assault Terminators, and then like Deathwing and then Inner Circle Knights. And you've just got enough fucking different varieties of Terminators to kind of just terminate your way to victory. It's probably one of those things where if I was a betting man, and I don't know the results this guy got, if I was a betting man, it was probably one of those things where he won his games, but not by a huge margin. So he probably just sort of cruised through the middle tables for a bit. And there were a couple of games where he probably, got kind of smashed, but nothing. He never won big enough to fucking Zeppelin and fly too close to the sun. But he might have lost hard enough in a couple of bad matchups where it kept him down in the mid tables. And so overall, he was able to play a couple of games. He was able to sort of submarine his way to a positive win-loss ratio. Could very well have been that he got absolutely destroyed for his first 2 games and submarine his last 3. That could be a thing as well. But hey, first Company Task Force. Someone made it work, one guy, and good for him. Well done. Firestorm Assault Force showing off that it, unlike the Anvil Siege Force, is actually relatively good in any kind of marine detachment. Red, small numbers though, just 4 people, but hey, they got a 55% win rate. And then we had Gladius Task Force, which is just, doesn't matter what kind of Marine you are, Gladius is solid. Not great, not terrible, 3.6. 6 players, 43% win rate, decent. But really, by far and away, the most popular way of running Dark Angels is Green Ironstorm. And this detachment had double the players of the next most popular detachment. So there's a lot of people fucking around with Dark Angels, trying little different things, trying to make things work. But really, it's the Ironstorm Spearhead. And these guys managed to win 12 players, 36 wins out of 70 games played. Only 1 in 12 people was able to go 4-1. But overall, the vast majority of people did win, go 3-2 or 2-3, or a little bit higher than that, which did end up resulting in a 51% win rate. Ironstorm is a phenomenally powerful detachment. It's not really a tournament winning detachment, apart from like small local, like sort of RTTs or GTs, but it is fundamentally strong. At the end of the day, as I always say, if you go 100% purely into firepower, you'll win half your games. And Ironstorm is the control group that proves that right. If you just fuck off trying to actually score points and just blow people off the table, 50% of the time, it works every time. Now we get to, obviously, the best faction, the one that we're all really here for, the Imperial Guard, the Emperor's true finest. Yes. And gentlemen, I don't mean to alarm you, but we are solidly, comfortably into the Goldilocks zone now. We are at 47%. We have got 47% win rate. We have got 45 players. That's a really healthy amount of players for our community. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. 118 wins is just a solid amount of raw wins. 250 out of 250 games. 7 people. 7. That's one of the highest we've seen so far. 7 people went 4-1, and one brave, beautiful bastard even managed to win a tournament. I think it was a small tournament. Yeah, it was only a 20-player event. It was only a 20-player event, but this guy, he went 5-1. He went 5-0 at this event. He beat out Thousand Suns. He beat out Dark Angels, and yeah. So, and you can see, guard keep popping up. This guy podium in here. We can see guard podiuming here. There's lots and lots of just guard just popping up here and there, just kind of like doing their thing. Guard, 4-1 here. There's just guard just popping up all over the place, and that's where I think guard now. We're an A-tier faction. I think our like S-tier build did get nuked somewhat by the Mutant Field Manual. But I honestly think that overall, we're a solid A-tier army. We can go to local RTTs, local GTs, and just be in a great position to actually win those. And occasionally, we can do something at a super major and catch people out and do something kind of interesting. But we're just a solid faction. And I think people are starting to see that now. For the longest time, I've been saying this from the beginning of 10th edition. Guard have got such solid data sheets. And GW bringing the points down on things like our Lehman Russell is fascinating. You can truly take a quantity style list now. Do you want to take like 6 tanks, 120 empty, and still have points left over for like indirect fire? You can do that now. You can overwhelm people in just a tide of balls, bayonets, blood, and just mediocre units. And that's exactly what the Guard should do. I'm not shitting on the Guard when I say we've got mediocre units, because fundamentally our data sheets are good. But what I mean is, like, individually Guard units, don't tend to be able to go 1-1, but you never go 1-1. When that, unit of Marines, 5 intercessors, like, holds an objective, do you know what storms them off that objective? 20 Guardsmen. When those 3 Tau vehicles come out and like pop 2 Guard tanks, you know what hits them back? 4 tanks. Guard we're just solid. And there are some armies that are overtuned. There's some armies that are just powerful. And there are some matchups which aren't super great for Guard. Like Necrons still tend to be a bit of a tricky one. But I think the biggest takeaway for Guard for me is this 47% and these player numbers and these consistent 4-on-1s and these consistent tournament wins that we're seeing every week. I think it shows a real growing confidence. The faction is striding forth with a bit of spring in its step, with a bit of piss and vinegar in its fucking dice rolls, which for a long time the Guard community didn't have. I used to be so surprised seeing Guard players on things like Reddit and things like Facebook and just on YouTube and stuff. Guard players being like, "Oh, our faction's rubbish, our data sheets are terrible, things are overpriced." And I think what we've seen is, and this is the one of the things that I think, was one of the most important things that David Gaylard did with the Guard, is he was like, no, like, this faction is S tier, this faction is good. And obviously that S tier build has been dropped, so I'd say we're just A tier, but this faction is good. And I think obviously he got a lot of shit for saying that, but then he put his money in his mouth and proved it. But I think that sort of high level, like, high profile wins that he was able to achieve with the faction, I think it sort of snapped people out of this just automatic response of, oh, well, Guard are shit. And people started being like, actually, Guard are quite good. And I think that confidence is so important in a game. This is for any faction. If you go into a game and you think, my faction's shit, this matchup is shit, I probably can't win this, fuck it, then you're probably going to lose because you've already lost. So you're not going to see opportunities. You're not going to make decisions that might get you the edge. But if you go in there thinking, fuck it, my faction ain't too bad, you might spot that thing. You might have a little bit more focus. You might think you can go in with a bit more and win that game. And that confidence can go a very, very long way. A really long way. So I think Guard, nothing's really changed for Guard right now. For a lot of people, they're listing and changing points. Some went up a little bit, some went down a little bit. You can build a very specific sort of like spammy list like I did with the 3 Vanquishers, the 3 Hellhounds, like the 100 Infantry. But overall, I think not much has changed. But what has changed, what I've noticed changed in the meta, is the confidence of the Guard players. Long story short, it's great to see Guard putting in consistent work every single week. I love to see it. I fucking love it. Blood Angels continuing to do Blood Angels things. 58 players. 147 wins, 305 games played, 8 people going 4-on-1, and one of those 8 actually going all the way and winning a tournament. Now it's interesting, out of 58 players, 2 ran Gladius, 3 ran Ironstorm, and a whopping 53 of them ran Sons of Sanguinius. That is beautiful to see. That is amazing to see. It is great to see Blood Angels be Blood Angels. Very, 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 very cool. But it's just great to see Blood Angels embracing the fact that they are Blood Angels and running the Blood Angels attachment and getting some good wins out of it. 34 players, 5 rounds, American GT. There you go. Can't complain with winning a 34. That's a decent sized local GT. 5 rounds and winning at Blood Angels. Can't complain at all. And I think that really is where Blood Angels probably are at. They are a local GT, local RTT winning faction with the occasional spike into something a bit spicier. But no matter what event you go to with them, if you run your Sons of Sanguinius as fucking Blood Angels, you'll do alright. Next, we've got Chaos Demons. Chaos Demons just continue to do demon things. 39 wins. 39 players, let's get this right, 39 players, 99 victories out of 205 games played, 2 people going 4-on-1, which really isn't very many out of 39 players, but they did win a tournament, and they had a 4-episode win rate. Holy shit, Chaos Demons won a tournament? Hey, they won a major. Oh, no, I thought it was in Melbourne. I was like, oh, they won an Australian tournament, that makes sense. No, North Carolina, I'm guessing. Hey, they just won a fucking major, man. That is a proper Chaos Demons win. For a long time, they won weird victories by disqualification and all this kind of stuff. But that's a proper win. Well done, Chaos Demon players. You finally got a big win. Well done. After Chaos Demons, we have World Eaters. World Eaters for a little bit in the ascendancy at the moment. A lot of people just loving, just loving the World Eaters. 63 players, very, very popular faction. The fact there's more World Eaters than Blood Angels is significant and interesting. 169 raw wins, 169 skulls collected for the Skull Throne. 349 games played in total, 7 people going 4-1 and 2 tournament wins with a 48% win rate. World Eaters won a 34 player event in the UK, which is a very respectable mid-sized tournament, and they won a 58 player event in Alberta, which is a large GT. So they won a mid-sized GT and a large GT. Not unsurprising. I've seen one player. I actually bumped into a player this weekend that I hadn't seen in a little while. He'd taken a break from competitive 40k, but he's coming back. A chap called Adam, and he's a very cutthroat, win at all costs sort of method chaser kind of player. He did come back. I was like, he came back. I bumped into him this weekend. He was like, oh well, I took a little bit of time away. You know, had some life to deal with, but you know, now I'm just playing chill, playing a bit more relaxed. And I was like, oh, okay, man, like, interesting. Like, I went, what have you done? What have you done with Adam? It's like a skinwalker. I was like, where's the stitches? Because the Adam I knew, you know, if he saw like an easy matchup, he'd start salivating because he knew he was going to fucking stomp the bitch into the ground. This is the guy that took Tau and used to table people in 1 turn of firepower. He was so fucking ruthless. Anyway, turns out that, and I gave him shit for this over the weekend. As it turns out that Adam, he says he's a reformed whacker player. Turns out, and he's still as cutthroat as ever because he dropped 1 victory point over the course of the tournament. Literally went 199 or something insane. Or maybe it was like 1 WTC point over the weekend. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he didn't drop a lot of points, and he's running World Eaters. And so basically, if that guy's running World Eaters, it really, you know, it means that they've got some play. And what he basically said is you can use World Eaters to kind of abuse some of the like assault, like charge and piling and sort of consolidate mechanics and everything. And he's definitely one of these players that he if he can find a rule, and you know, he will roar you to death basically. And he's got incredible knowledge of how the rules work. So, you know, he will know exactly like how to pile in to like trap you, to force you to take desperate escape, which will cause additional casualties and all this kind of stuff. Like, I haven't played a game, so I'm sort of guessing sort of what he does, and I'd love to play a game against him just so he can explain like, this is how I do all the bullshit against you, and how I can really like milk the assault phase, or I should say the charge phase and the fight phase. World Eaters being in the ascendancy, I think what we're seeing is some people starting to finally sort of unlock the cheese. But I have to say, you know, when I looked at Adam's list, there was nothing there that really surprised me. He had some Exalted 8-bound, he had a dude on a Juggernaut Lord, and of course he had Angron. I feel like essentially it's not necessarily that World Eaters that are doing well are taking anything out of the ordinary. We're just starting to see them really get into the nitty gritty of the rules and really squeezing every bit of juice out of those fights and really pushing the rule set to its limit. Moving over to Black Templars, 43 players. It's very, very popular Marine community. 116 wins, 235 games played, 6 people going 4-1 and 2 tournament wins. Now what's interesting is the most popular detachment for the Black Templars was Righteous Crusaders, the Black Templar one. And we've said this for a long time. Black Templar players, they're dedicated. You know, they believe in the tenets of Sigismund, accept any challenge no matter the odds. And so this right here represents the Black Templar community. 24 players, managing to, 4 of which went 4-1, and managing to get a very respectable 51% win rate, but no one won a tournament. No one is winning a tournament with Righteous Crusaders. The people are doing very well, but they're not winning tournaments with Righteous Crusaders. Where we're seeing people win tournaments, I'm surprised no one won with Ironstorm Spearhead. I faced off against Black Templar Ironstorm Spearhead this weekend. Ironstorm Spearhead is very, very powerful. But 43% there. I guess at the end of the day, it's a pure firepower list, so sometimes it's going to get outscored and whatnot. But what's interesting is this is like, we keep seeing Black Templars in Gladius winning events and winning games. I think Gladius is the smart pick. Firestorm, bit of an anomalous result here. 2 players, both going 4-1. Or no, what was happening is someone went 3-2, and someone must have won a big event, like a 6-round event with them. So I'm not sure how that works, actually. I guess at the end of the day, just having assault on everything is pretty good. Having advance and charge and everything is pretty good. Like Black Templars, that's the one thing they don't have is advance and charge. They've got scout. And they've got reroll advances, and they've got reroll like charges, but they don't have advance and charge. So I guess Firestorm Assault can. Isn't it? Or is that? No, Firestorm is. I've been told by a very, 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 very good player is better than Ironstorm Spearhead. It's just that it just takes a little bit more. You sort of just got to sort of focus on the mission as less focusing on like killing and stuff. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, Firestorm, it's a small sample size, but we're seeing it do well across multiple Space Marine factions. Gladius continues to be very, very powerful, very, very solid. But the vast, vast majority of Black Templar players do not give a fuck about the meta, do not give a fuck about what the better detachment is. They are Black Templar players, and they are going to take their Black Templars as Black Templars, and I am one of those Black Templar players, and I respect that for sure. Okay, I have to be totally honest, Imperial Knights are a bit of a blind spot. It seems like every fucking month, every week, like 1 week Imperial Knights do great and Chaos Knights do terribly. The next week, Chaos Knights do great, Imperial Knights do terribly. I really can't get a bead on this faction. Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights have almost totally died out. In all of the RTTs and GTs that I've been to, I just do not see Imperial Knight players. I don't really get because I don't really see them, because I don't really encounter them, because I don't even really get a chance to chat to them. Those players, they're just a blind spot for me. So they're all over the place a little bit from my perspective. I always thought that Chaos Knights were better because their War Dogs are more specialized, but apparently this week the Imperial Knights are doing better. I know Chaos Knights spam War Dogs. I thought Imperial Knights spammed Baby Knights, but I keep hearing people tell me they don't do that anymore. They actually take medium knights and stuff. But I don't really want to pass much commentary on this. At the end of the day, 33 players is a relatively respectable number, especially when you combine that with the Chaos Knight numbers, which brings us up to 69 players. Nice in total. And they had a 49% win rate with 2 players going 4-1, but no one winning an event. I suspect that that Imperial Knights, sometimes people just don't bring enough anti-tank. I mean, I'm a guard player that only turns up with 6 tanks, and I find people don't bring enough anti-tank against me. So if you're running like 10 to 11 vehicles, then I guess, and someone doesn't bring enough anti-tank, you're going to get smashed. But yeah, Imperial Knights going, having 50% win rate and having a couple of players go 4-1, but no one win tournaments, that makes sense to me. Because they're a bit of a gatekeeper army, and there's always going to be, they'll climb high, but they'll always get to that final and then play against someone who has, play one of those cracked factions, which always does have enough anti-tank or can outscore them or does both. And then we get to Death Guard. So Death Guard are sneaking into the top 10. Okay, guys, look at the stats first. 69 players. Nice, the gentleman's number. 188 raw victories out of 377 games. And 10 players going 4-1. No one winning a tournament, but 10 players going 4-1 with a crisp 50% win rate. Let's just break those numbers down a little bit. Firstly, 69 players, of course, epic number, lol, but also a really high player count. 188 just raw victories is, again, that's just a lot of just raw games just fucking won. And then having 10 people, that's like what, like off the top of my head, like 15% of your players come away with 4-1. Amazing. Really, really strong result all round. 50% win rate puts us right on the cusp, right in the fucking clip of the Goldilocks zone. Anything higher than that, anything too high above 50%, we start getting into bullshit territory, right? But 50% is fucking right there. No one won a GT though, so I think no one won an event. So I think I'm putting Death Guard at A- tier, maybe B+ tier. Next up, we're getting into like the top 8 now, top 8 cut. So Grey Knights. Grey Knights aren't doing anything different. They are continuing to essentially spam Nemesis Dread Knights. They had 48 players, so the Grey Knight numbers. I always say this: give Grey Knights like one good build, and they will abuse the shit out of that build. And so Grey Knight players like, I'm going to take all of the
octopus.
Fuck's sake, Cosmic Dude. I'm gonna have to turn the fucking voice dude out off. I'm good. So Grey Knights, basically 48 players is such a strong recovery for this faction, considering at one point they were like barely scraping together single digits. 48 players is a huge resurgence. 4 players going 4-1 with a 50% winner overall. Basically what we're seeing here is Nemesis Dread Knight spam, where if you take 5 or 6 Nemesis Dread Knights, you will do quite well. But Dread Knights they're not that drawable. They're toughness 8 at the end of the day. So and it's not that hard to force them onto their 4+ invulnerable save. I mean, a fucking plasma gun, even shooting a Dread Knight in cover, will wound you on 4s and put you onto your 4+ invulnerable save. See what I mean? So Grey Knight, Dread Knights, they're good. They're very spammable. They're very maneuverable, and certain armies just can't deal with that sort of weight of just fucking quite tough-ish, but not that tough things coming out. Just that weight of just stuff coming at them. You kill two in a turn. There's still 4 that you've got to fucking deal with. But yeah, Grey Knights are basically jumping up and down a bit, and at the same time, they are pounding people's buttholes with the Nemesis Dread Knights.
Mordianglory eats corn a long way.
Hey! Cosmic just decided to insult me by saying Mordianglory eats corn the long way. Next, we've got Drukhari. Dark Elder are right in the pocket. They're right in the perfect Goldilocks zone right now. And you know what? They've been in that Goldilocks zone for a long time. In fact, ever since Sky Splinter Assault came out, Dark Elder have just been having a great time. Again, not much has changed. Nothing much changed with Grey Knights. Nothing much changed with Drukhari. We are seeing a huge majority of people taking Sky Splinter Assault. They even won a tournament, which is a pretty big deal. What size tournament did they win? It might have been a big one. No, they won a 27 player local GT. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. To win any tournament, to go 5 games in a row is very impressive. Of course I did it with Sky Splinter. Amazingly, 2 people didn't get the memo and took Wheel Space Raiders and didn't get completely filled in. One went, between the 2 of them, they won half the games, but it's a very, very small sample size. But yeah, Sky Splinter Assault, amazing. Spamming boats, amazing. People were able to go 4-1 with it. The occasional local tournament win. GW has got Dark Elder perfect, and it's great to see. We love it. Let us get into the top 6 factions, starting off with Necrons. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. They're still very popular with 90 players. They're still clearly very powerful with 266 wins. And with 10 players, that's over 10%, 10 players managing to go 4-1. And they have an overall 52% win rate. All right? And they even won a tournament this week. But it's a far cry. A far cry from the edging on 60% win rate and it's a far cry from winning like 9 tournaments in a quieter week. If we delve down a little bit more, we're seeing some people lean into Awakened Dynasty, which I believe is the one that favors things like Necron Warriors. It gives you like a +1 to hit. It's kind of interesting. So we're seeing a few people trying out the Silver Tide, as it were, which is kind of cool. We had 8 people take that, so almost 10% of the players, and they even managed to go 4-1. One of the guys even went 4-1, and it has a 61% win rate overall. That's not a bad not a bad sample size. 61% win rate. Maybe we're seeing a return of Silver Tide. Canoptic Court, actually, for the first time, was the more popular choice than Hypercrypt Cult, with 44 players, winning 134 games. 5 people going 4-1, and someone winning a tournament with Canoptic Court with a 54% win rate overall. They won a major in France. 82 players, 5 rounds, Canoptic Court, Necrons 5-0. So that's an 82 player event. Very, 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 but that's not a local affair. That's a pretty decent one. Hypercrypt Legion with 37 players, not as many. And with only 4 players, so less players, less people going 4-1, and less win rate. I do think Hypercrypt Cult people have switched away from it. And I think people are switching towards Canoptic Court now a bit more. Canoptic Court is a much more fun list to play against. But one thing I would say, I went to the RTT where all I played was Necrons 3 games in a row. And they feel a lot like Eldar now. What I mean by that is they're very elite. If you go down the traditional multiple Catan kind of route, they're very elite. And people have been gearing up to deal with 4 Catan. That's the standard that people have been dealing with. So when you now turn up with only 2 Catan, it's not that they're half as impactful, it's that they are way less impactful. I killed 2 Catan in 1 turn. So I think like Hypercrypt Legion, there's less stuff to teleport around. The stuff that you have got is relatively a lot less durable. Necrons are still really good, but I don't think they're the boogeyman anymore. Do they need any more nerfs? I don't know. I beat them 3 times with fucking Vanquishers. Maybe not. Maybe just a few. People are saying Wraiths are really oppressive. Wraiths can't kill a fucking Chimera in combat. The way you beat Wraiths is you fucking diddle them with a cheap transport, and they just go, "Oh, Father, what is my purpose?" So they can't do anything. So I think maybe they need a few minor points adjustments. But I don't think they need the fucking 6 nerf. I think the 6 fucking turbo blows to the gonads that Eldar needed from the nerf bat. Yeah. Next we have Sisters of Battle. Very much considered potential inheritors of the meta. Sisters have gone from strength to strength. 40 players is phenomenally good numbers for this faction. We're seeing a lot of big traditionally big Sisters players jumping on them as well. 5 players going 4-1. No one winning a tournament with them this week, but they've definitely won tournaments, and they've definitely got the potential in them to win very large events. Just this week wasn't their week, I guess. Sisters are basically using unnerfed fate dice, just in reverse. They get them towards the end of the game rather than the beginning, and they're meching up. They're another example of the MG mantra. If you are struggling, mechanize. They're a faction like Death Guard, which the moment they started doing that, their win rate started going up. Now we're getting into, Sisters were the first of our top 5. Now we're getting into, we've got the remaining top 5 just missing out on the podium. We have got Orcs. But let us not be under any illusions here. Orcs are going to define the meta. Orcs are going to be the next big thing. Orcs are fucking insane. Guys, their codex has been out less than a month. They have 110 players. That is more players than the Necrons. And they've come out of the fucking gate. Out of those 110 players, 20 people. 20 people. That's almost 20% of the players went 4-1. And they won 6 tournaments. Now, they're not just going to dominate it with like how powerful they are. They're going to dominate it with their presence. Orcs are an unbelievably common faction. They've been around since what, like fucking Rogue Trader or something insane. Everyone either owns an orc army or has access to an orc army that they can borrow. Orcs really are going to be... You need to be gearing up to beat orcs, guys. Screening. Anyone here who is not running a fully developed Imperial Guard screen, I have no sympathy for you, because we've been training for this since the fucking start of the edition, and now it's gone turbo. If orcs become really prevalent, it's not going to be a case of 80 infantry is going to be enough. It's going to be 100, because you're going to lose probably 40 in the first turn. I have been reliably informed that Mega Knobs are bullshit. Gaz and Mega Knobs are bullshit. And clearly the competitive meta thinks so as well. Because out of 110 orc players, 58, more than half of them were running Bully Boys. More than half of the players that went 4-0, 4-1 I should say, ran Bully Boys. Bully Boys had a 58% win rate, 4% higher than the Orc faction on average, and they won 2/3. They won 4 out of 6 of the Orc tournaments. Orc tournament wins. Bully Boys is the meta detachment. Mega Knobs and Gaz are insanely good. They are, as Ratboy puts it, both brutal and cunning. So Dreadmob, very popular. Interestingly, I know a lot of people that were excited for Dreadmob and all the killer cans. Turns out Dreadmob a bit shit, apparently. 14 players, so the third most popular orc detachment, only a 37% win rate. Some guy went 4-1 with it though. Maybe Dreadmob is attracting all the crazy mech, sort of mech boy orc players, and they're sort of just throwing shenanigans around the table. Maybe it's got some power, but I know a lot of people were excited for Dreadmob. Doesn't seem to have had much follow through. Big Hunt is the Beast Snagger one. It seems okay. 5 players, not a great sample size to be honest. Very small sample size, but 40% win rate, not great, not terrible. Cult of Speed. Now I have to admit, I am very surprised that there were only 2 Cult of Speed factions. Speed freaks and buggies and all of that shit have been heavily pushed by GW since orcs have sort of been undergoing their long, slow remaster. And yet there's still only 2 fucking people that turn up with Cult of Speed, which is wild. Too small sample size to really say much about. Then we get to the Warhorde, which I believe is the index detachment, which seems to be continuing on fine. 11 players is okay. Numbers not great, not terrible. Numbers that Deathwatch could wish for, though. 35 wins, 56% win rate, 2 wins, 2 people going 4-1, and 1 person managing to get a tournament with it. So the index detachment still has some legs. But I think the one that people were most interested in is Green Tide. And it seems that Green Tide, it might not be as overtly meta as Bully Boys, but it's got its own 2 legs it can stand on. 20 players makes it the second most popular played detachment. And those players got 62 wins between them out of 106 games. 5 of those players went 4-1. And 4 of those players went 4-1, and 1 additional player went all the way and actually won a tournament with the Green Tide. Overall, a 58% win rate. Wow. Having 3 detachments with a 50+% win rate on the fucking day, on basically in the first month of release. Yeah, orcs are going to get nerfed. Orcs are going to get nerfed so hard. What I would actually suggest GW does is they probably ride it out for another couple of weeks, 3 weeks before they knee-jerk reaction. Because I do wonder if maybe people just aren't screening. Because if Bully Boys come flying into you at 20 Kachans and absolutely butcher them, then that's fine. If Bully Boys come flying into your Land Raider, come flying into your Iron Storm and just basically delete it all, you're not going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a big difference between what they kill, and what they can get their worth out and what they can trade. So overall, I think that overall I think they're very, very, very strong. My one, the Bully Boys I think is probably the one that needs nerfing sooner rather than later. But Green Tide, I think Green Tide is just doing well because the meta is not geared up to deal with hordes. It's just not. And if someone takes 120 boys and fucking spunks a pain boy into 3 of the units, it's just quite difficult. Some people just don't have the volume, and that's really what Green Tide is doing right now. Green Tide is anti-meta. I think it has the potential for that win rate to come down significantly if the meta adapts. Bully Boys, on the other hand, I think probably does need raiding in a bit. Funny thing about Green Tide is it can literally table itself, because if you play into Death Guard, you're like, I'm going to charge your Death Guard with my Bully Boy, with my unit of orcs. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to strike first. I'm going to hit you on probably on 2s or 3s with critical hits on 5, lethal hits on 5s. And then also you've got like a 5-up save, which is fine, but that's kind of it. And when you hit me back, you hit me on fucking 4s, and then you're wounding me on 5s, and I get a 4-up save, 3-up 4-up save, and you're 1 wounded dude and I'm 2 wounds fucking dude. So yeah, orcs do struggle into Death Guard. But that's Green Tide or Death Guard. That's really the only thing it struggles into at the moment. 120 boys, man. I am itching. I am itching for the day that someone chucks down 120 boys against me. Next tournament I go to, someone better fucking Green Tide my ass, because I want to face that shit. There's nothing more satisfying than facing a proper orc horde. And orc hordes have not been encouraged for too long. Now is the time to bring back the orc horde. Now is the time to make orcs feel like orcs again. So, Genestealer Cult. Amazing, 16 players. Like AdMech, the Genestealer Cult are turning this franchise around. 16 players is good for them. 46 wins and 5 people going 4-1, and someone won a fucking event. Genestealer Cult keep winning events. It's like 1 a week, and they keep having a 54% win rate, and that's a pure 54% win rate, because I doubt anyone's getting a mirror match with that low numbers. Just some people just using poo dice to make sure they always get their fucking unit back or something. What size event was it? 30 player 5-round event. I don't know what it is. I have never, when I used my GSC post nerf, it was the most frustrating thing, and it was not a good. I barely won the game, but it was like it was a draw. I was actually, me and Sam basically drew. I won by 1 point. We were playing WTC at the time, so it was a draw. Every time I've played GSC at a tournament, I've just fucking smashed them, because they've got like guardsmen that cost a ridiculous amount, and they just don't get them back. Yeah, I don't know how people are winning with GSC. I'd love to know how people are winning with GSC. But right now, it just seems like some people are good at making 4-ups. and some people aren't. That's really what it comes down to. But then we get to the top 2, but GSE do keep appearing. They're doing something right. I'm just not sure what it is. Then we get Space Wolves. Or should I say, we get Codex Stormlance. 28 out of 28 players, 22 of them ran Stormlance. So, look, I'm not even really going to look at the other ones. That they're fine. Champions of Rust doing weirdly well. But it's Codex Stormlands. It's Wolf Jail. It's Wolf Jail. That's literally what it is. People run at you with as many Thunderwolf Cavalry as they can. Those Thunderwolf Cavalry hit like a fucking truckload. Madlark and all that will confirm that one. He was the one that was on the receiving end of very meta Stormlance and absolutely diddled him. It's Wolf Jail. Now look, we have to have a conversation about this now. Space Wolf Jail has been 50+% for too long. Like, it wasn't nerfed in the last balance patch, and it for too long it has been 50+%, and for too long people are just being put in the Wolf Jail. And it's a pressure list, and pressure lists can be quite frustrating to play against because you just get put in the corner, and no one wants to be baby put in the corner. Also, I have an innate hatred of Thunderwolf Cavalry because I played 7th edition. Need I say more? So yeah, Space Wolves, what they're doing here is Wolf Jail. They're still doing it. We'll see if GW decides to fix it, but it's a problem. It's gone from being, Space Wolves have found a decent way to make things work, to, this is all that Space Wolves are playing, but hey, it's powerful, fair play to them, to, okay, we've had enough now. It's a little bit like when what was the I can't remember which faction it was. I'm not sure. Maybe it was Necrons. I can't remember. But there's a certain, certain factions will be given a lot of leeway because they're like, historically they've had like a bad run. So if your faction was dog shit at the beginning of like 10th edition, then you suffered through that, and then your faction becomes good, people will, basically for about 3 to 4 months, people will be like, okay, yeah, I get it. After that, people rapidly go, okay, this is bullshit now. You've had your goodwill, kind of, change the fucking record, especially if it's one-dimensional. If it's a faction that's good but can do multiple things, that goodwill can often go along a lot further. Because it's like, I'm playing like Necrons, for example, but fuck it, I'm playing like Canoptic Core. I'm not playing Hypercult. People are like, okay, that's cool, yeah, nice. But when it's just one tactic doing one thing, and they've been doing it as Mad Lark said since like fucking September 2023. 6 months later, we're all fucking bored of it. Can you please fix it and make Space Wolves interesting? Because at the moment they're just boring. And when I could turn up to a table, see a Space Wolf list, and my opponent will say to me, do you want me to take you through the list? And I'm like, nah man, I know what it does. And they're like, oh, but do you know this? Yeah, I know that can do the surge move. I know you can advance a charge. They've got a 4-up save. They hit like a truck. Yeah, I know what it does. When it's got to that point, you need a fucking hard refresh. Not reset, hard refresh. Orcs were like that by the time they got their codex. I could literally turn up to 3 different tournaments in 3 different venues and face orcs each time, and each time go, that's what's on your list. And every single time people would look at me like, how the fuck did you know? Like, I did look at the pair. I haven't even looked at them, man. But it's round like fucking 2. I don't know what the pairings are. They're like, how do you know? I went, because Orc. And I literally went, because you're an Orc player, man. This is exactly what Orcs do each time. And it's got to that point with Space Wolves now. Yeah. It's fine. It's powerful. We're not denying it's powerful. And we're happy that Space Wolves are finding something powerful. And we're not begrudging them that yet. But we'd like them to change the record now, please. That's where I think the community and the general feeling is against Space Wolves. And then we get to the last one. Thousand Suns. Some of you said I was mad. Some of you said that I was wrong. That Thousand Suns would not be the inheritor of the meta. Some of you were wrong. I said this a long time ago, and I said it specifically after I faced off against Thousand Suns, that they could be the inheritors, and that I was strongly convinced that Thousand Suns were actually the most powerful faction in the game right now. And Magnus his shoulders are very, very tired. But Magnus is doing some insane work. Thousand Suns are supremely powerful. They've got good indirect, pseudo-indirect fire. They have a fantastic Demon Primarch. And they've just got... The Cabal points make them phenomenally good at resisting being like wrapped up and trapped in combat. And they have flamers on everyone. So they screw over assault armies. They're durable enough to get into range against shooting armies because they've all got like a 5-up invulnerable save. Fantastic. They have a lot going for them right now. What's funny is this weekend I saw a Thousand Suns mirror match where both players had, except for one unit, identical lists. So and it's clear that list is starting, and neither of those players were Thousand Sun players. They were players who were running a Thousand Suns. Both very competitive players who were running Thousand Suns. But look, don't just listen to me. Look at the meta. 53,000 Sun players. There are many people playing Thousand Suns as there are people playing Space Marines. Huge numbers. Huge numbers for what is often considered to be the smaller of the Chaos Space Marine communities. Death Guard, very, very large. Regular Chaos Space Marines, very, very large. Thousand Suns, you see them now and again, but they're not. You're always going to have a Chaos player in your local community. You're always going to have a Death Guard player in your local community. You're not guaranteed to have a Thousand Suns player in your local community. 50-50. But now, yeah, Thousand Suns are really in the ascendancy with their numbers, and they've got a phenomenal 61% rate. Almost, is that 25% of players? 25% of the players that ran Thousand Suns went 4-1 or better. They won 2 events this weekend, which isn't the most. Orcs won more. But then again, Orcs had double the number of players they had. 61% win rate, probably being artificially suppressed by, I'd say 1 or 2%. Probably looking at a 62, 63% win rate. Yeah, man. And the thing is that what's important to remember is Thousand Suns have been like this since the beginning. Go back to the earliest days of me doing these 10th edition Meta Mondays. What was I saying? I said Eldar are on top right now, and I said the inheritors of the meta is going to come down to Necrons or Thousand Suns. Now, Necrons had the mantle responsibility for a little bit. Thousand Suns are up there now. Thousand Suns are up there now, and I think you're not going to see Thousand Suns drop out the top 8. Not until Nerf comes along, and I doubt you'll see them drop out of I doubt you drop out of top 5, but I'd say they are in the top 8 consistently, and every so often you're going to see them take the full top. They might even be top for multiple weeks in a row. Remember, we're looking at a huge sample size here. We're looking at 1,200 players. We are looking at the clearest peek into the meta we can get. Multiple super majors this week, multiple majors, multiple normal size, large GTs, normal size GTs, multiple local size GTs. Every slice of the meta is being represented, from the most cutthroat, top tier stages of the meta right through to the local ones. And in all of those areas, taking everything into account, Thousand Suns won 2 events and a 61% win rate, and 25% of their players went 4-1. Phenomenally powerful. My money is on Thousand Sons to be the inheritors after Necrons. But maybe orcs will thwart them. I'm not sure about orcs thwarting Thousand Sons simply because A, Tzeentch has been planning this for a long time, and B, Thousand Sons do quite well against assault armies. And orcs are an assault army. That is my take on ye olde meta. Let's head over to the big screen. All right, guys, we'll call it there. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, see you guys next time. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.